For pretty much 90 years, if you thought about American beauty, you thought about one name, Revlon. I mean, it dominated culture, it defined what glamour was, and then it all just nearly vanished. So today we're going to unpack the story of its absolutely incredible rise, its shocking fall, and the single financial decision that really changed everything.
It all started with this number, $300. That's it. That was the entire stake three guys used to build a global empire. Now, that's a tiny amount of money by any standard, but what makes it truly unbelievable is when they decided to do it.
Yeah, they made this bet in 1932, right in the absolute heart of the Great Depression. A quarter of the entire country was unemployed. Nobody was spending money. Launching a luxury brand? It just seemed completely insane. But the founders saw an opportunity that, well, literally everyone else was missing.
So what was their secret? It was a single, really powerful innovation. While the rest of the world was pulling back, Revlon was founded on a fundamentally better product, and this core belief that even in the darkest of times, people still buy hope.
And this right here was the game changer. See, their competitors were all using these thin, weak dyes, but Charles Revson's big insight was to use pigments instead. What this did was create a nail enamel that was opaque, super richly colored, and dramatically more durable. It was just a flat-out superior product that made everything else on the market look obsolete overnight.
And their rollout strategy was just brilliant. They started out in 32 selling only to beauty salons, which let the professionals, prove how good the product was. By 37, they were in department stores, and then in 1939, they launched the iconic Lips and Fingertips campaign, this whole idea that your lipstick and your nail polish should match. It was a marketing masterstroke that ended up defining a whole generation of style.
So, with that solid foundation in place, Charles Revson turned to the most powerful new medium of the era, television. He understood that he wasn't just selling makeup, he was selling this aspirational idea of what the modern American woman could be.
This quote is really the key to understanding Revlon's dominance. Revson knew he wasn't in the chemical business, he was in the emotion business. And that philosophy drove pretty much every ad campaign and every product launch for the next 40 years.
And as delivery vehicle for that message, this number right here, 55 million people. That's how many watched the $64,000 question, the primetime quiz show that Revlon sponsored. In a nation of about 165 million people at the time, that meant literally 1/3 of the entire country was seeing a Revlon ad every single week.
And the results were just staggering. A 500% sales jump for some products. The total company sales grew by over half in a single year. It was hands down one of the most successful advertising bets in history, and it absolutely cemented Revlon's place at the top of the industry.
But the innovation didn't stop there. Revlon was the first major cosmetics company to feature a black model, Naomi Sims, in its advertising. They launched Charlie, a fragrance that was all about celebrating the modern, independent woman. And they basically invented the celebrity beauty contract when they signed Lauren Hutton. They weren't just following culture, they were creating it.
So for 50 years, Revlon was this story of just a relentless climb to the top. But in 1985, one single event happened that would set the company on a completely different path, a hostile takeover that would trap it in debt for almost 4 decades.
Financier Ronald Perelman bought Revlon using a tool that really defined the 1980s, junk bonds. These were high-risk loans that fueled a whole wave of corporate takeovers. The deal was valued at $2.7 billion, but it saddled the company with a just monumental amount of debt.
And this slide really shows the fundamental change. The Revson era was all about product innovation and brand building. The Perelman era, it was about one thing, generating enough cash to service a massive 2.9 times billion-dollar debt load. The company's focus totally shifted from the cosmetics counter to the balance sheet.
And here's the crazy part. That debt never went away. For the next 37 years, it became an anchor. Every single decision, from which products to launch to how much to spend on marketing, it was all dictated by the constant pressure of this massive financial burden.
Now, being weighed down by all that debt was, survivable in the 20th century. But when the digital revolution hit, it proved to be fatal. Revlon was just too slow, too heavy, and frankly, too broke to adapt.
This really puts the problem into perspective. Just look at the scale difference here. Competitors like L'Oreal weren't just bigger. They were operating on a completely different financial planet. They could pour billions into R&D and digital marketing, while a debt-laden Revlon just couldn't possibly keep up.
Then came the final blows.
These agile direct-to-consumer brands like Fenty Beauty came along and completely rewrote the rules. Revlon was stuck in drugstores. Then the pandemic shattered its already fragile supply chain. The losses just piled up, hitting over $800 million in just 2 years.
And then the inevitable happened. After 90 years, the iconic company that survived the Great Depression finally succumbed to its decades-old debt and filed for bankruptcy.
But you know what? The story doesn't actually end there. Bankruptcy wasn't a death sentence. For them, it was a chance to hit the reset button. So what's the playbook for a second chance?
Well, the new strategy seems pretty clear and focused. First, emerge as a private company, which they did in 2023. Step 2, and this is the big one, wipe that crippling debt off the books. Then, bring in new leaders who actually get digital and tech. And most importantly, attack e-commerce, where they've already seen 50% growth. It's a classic turnaround plan.
Which brings us to the final, really big question. In a world that's dominated by TikTok trends and viral moments that last 5 minutes, is Revlon's incredible 90-year history a powerful asset they can build on, or is it actually an anchor, tying them to a past that today's consumer might have already forgotten? I guess the next few years will tell us the answer.